"I don't like you anymore," shouted Linda, the CEO's daughter. I was falsely accused of cheating. Even the CEO, whom I trusted, turned his back on me, and I had to leave the company alone. To make matters worse, my house burned down in a fire, leaving me homeless. It was my college friend, Barbara, who saved me. It was there that I discovered a certain talent. "Who are you really?" Barbara asked in astonishment, but I couldn't tell her the truth. "My name is Will Moore, and I just turned 30 this year." Looking back, my 20s were all about work, with hardly any personal life. Of course, I enjoy my job and earning money, but now that I've hit the milestone of 30, I sometimes feel a sense of loneliness. Especially lately, my mom keeps telling me about which of my classmates have gotten married. In my 20s, I was fully occupied with work, but as I got older, I became more efficient and had more time to reflect on myself. When you can feel the important things as a human being with your heart, not your head, you are an adult. My dad used to say. In my teens and 20s, I didn't think deeply about those words and even forgot them. But now, those words seem to resonate with my heart. Being over 30, I can say such things, so it must be hard for young people around the age of 20 to become adults. Moreover, nowadays, the age of adulthood has been lowered to 18. I sympathize with young people who are rushed to become adults. It seems that the world is becoming tougher with each passing year. During our student days, the internet media was still growing, and there were plenty of business opportunities if you jumped on the bandwagon. Among my classmates, there were those who started their own channels on video sites and became somewhat famous or created hit smartphone apps, succeeding by doing what they loved. I also started a business during my student days. I launched an online sales site by myself, and within 3 years, it grew enough to hire a few employees. However, now, 10 years later, those opportunities have mostly been exhausted, and it's time to think of new things. Especially with the advancement of AI, taking away jobs. I want to create a society where young people can seize more opportunities. I can't say anything as grand as a politician. But lately, I've been hoping not just for myself, but for society to become more vibrant. However, when I shared my thoughts with Linda during our last date, she looked incredibly bored. "Does that have anything to do with me?" she asked me seriously. Sorry for the boring talk. I quickly apologized, trying not to upset her. It's been about 6 months since I started dating Linda. Honestly, I'm getting tired of being with her. Linda is the daughter of the CEO of Taylor Enterprises, where I currently work. Being an only child, she grew up quite spoiled and gets upset whenever something doesn't go her way. By the way, I saw the video you uploaded yesterday. It was great as always. You'll get more fans for sure. I tried to change the topic to lighten the mood. Linda runs a show called Princess Channel on a video site where she broadcasts her elegant lifestyle, and it's quite popular. Most of her subscribers are young women in their teens and 20s, many of whom adore and idolize her. Every comment on her videos is something like, "Amazing," or "I admire you so much." I find it impressive how she manages to maintain such an image in the public eye. That's because the Linda in the videos and the Linda I'm talking to now are like two different people. The Linda in the videos is a perfectly crafted image. She's a charming, stylish, and wonderful woman with an elegant life, never showing any hint of her true spoiled nature. In her videos, she never shows the sulky face she often shows me. In yesterday's video, she showcased a fashion coordination using a branded bag she said a friend had gifted her. There are a few lies there. First, I was the one who gave her the bag. And there's a sad story behind it. I gave Linda the bag she'd been wanting for a long time as a birthday present. "Sorry, but I'm not in the mood for this bag anymore," she said as soon as she opened it. Later, she went to another store and bought a new bag, which is the one she featured in the video. After dating for 6 months, thoughts of marriage start to flicker in the back of my mind. But neither of us made any such moves. We didn't start dating out of pure mutual affection. It was because her father, President Taylor, pushed us together. Linda prefers men who are highly educated, stylish, glamorous, and socially active. In contrast, I dropped out of college, have a plain appearance, and don't have a wide social circle. We were never meant to be lovers, but the CEO had a reason for pushing me towards his daughter. I provided my company's system and employees to the current company through a merger. This was also for the sake of my company's employees. When I started the business as a student, I felt like I hit my ceiling after some effort. I thought joining forces with another company would broaden my horizons more than running my company alone. Thanks to you, Will, this company has expanded. I want you to keep working hard as my right-hand man. And Linda is almost 30. She should date a serious guy like you instead of those frivolous men. Children raised spoiled tend to lack independence and listen to their parents. Linda started dating me as her father suggested. So, our relationship dragged on without any progress. But suddenly, it came to an end. One day, when I arrived at work, I was summoned by the CEO. Wondering why, I went to his office, where Linda was also present. She glared at me, creating a tense atmosphere. Did something happen? I asked, before Linda, who seemed to want to say something, could respond. The CEO spoke up. Will, I trusted you as an honest man and left Linda in your care. He then took what looked like photos from an envelope on his desk and handed them to me. Confused, I looked at them and saw a picture of me happily talking with a woman in a park. How could you cheat on me? Linda cried like a wounded maiden. But I knew she was acting. Linda wasn't the type to cry over being cheated on. Well, maybe if it was someone she truly loved, but she wouldn't shed tears over me. I responded to the CEO. The woman in the photo is an old friend. She's the CEO of a company, and we occasionally meet to discuss business. It's not the kind of relationship you think. Is that so? You look happier with her than you do with me. I thought you two were quite close. Linda retorted with a smirk. Sorry, but I did a little digging on you two. The woman in the photo is Barbara Miller, the CEO of Miller Trading. I heard you were quite close back in college. I couldn't help but make a bitter face. She's a friend, but nothing more. Linda cut in with a sarcastic look. Excuses are so pathetic. I liked your seriousness and integrity. I can't believe this. I don't like you anymore. What is she talking about? She never liked me from the start. If she wants to break up, she should just say it directly instead of dragging others into it. I was furious at Linda's outrageous behavior. If you say you don't like me, that's it. But I want you to know that Miller and I are innocent. Please believe that. I said firmly, and Linda snorted. You're so clueless. What do you mean? The CEO answered. I want Linda, my only daughter, to be happy. But it seems she doesn't like you. Recently, she met a CEO from another company who has taken a great liking to her, and she doesn't seem to mind him either. Yes, he's great. His name is Mike Johnson, and he's very stylish. Mike Johnson. I recognize that name. He was a classmate and a fellow entrepreneur during our college days. However, just before starting the business, he ran off with half of our startup funds. I was the one who provided most of the money. And Mike wants to merge his company with mine. His company is currently booming. I would love to bring him into the company, but he had one condition. That is removing you from the company. As expected, Mike still dislikes me. He's probably the one who told them about my relationship with Miller as well. I said, I understand, and turned my back. President Taylor nodded. I see. You understand. When the CEO says I'm no longer needed, I have no choice but to leave. Please don't treat the employees I brought poorly. They're not involved. Of course, all your subordinates are excellent. I don't intend to let them go. And so, I left the company alone, bitter memories flooding back. It's often said that bad things happen in succession. As I returned home, feeling miserable after being ousted from the company, an unbelievable sight greeted me. My apartment had burned down in a fire. Pushing through the buzzing crowd at the scene, I shouted, "My apartment, no way!" Seeing this, a police officer approached me and asked, "Are you a resident?" I nodded with a pained expression. I was told that since all the residents were out and there was no sign of fire, it was likely caused by an electrical fault, common in old buildings. Indeed, this apartment was built about 30 years ago. I had been living there since my student days. Even though it was old and had no shower, it was convenient. There was a public shower nearby and many shops selling delicious deli. It felt like home. In the depths of despair, I wondered what to do next, but my mind was blank. Eventually, I sat on the ground, too weary to stand. At that moment, I felt a gentle hand on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw Barbara standing there, looking worried. She must have heard the news about the fire and rushed over. "I'm so glad you're safe, Will," she said with a smile as soon as she saw my face. "Yeah, but everything's gone," I replied weakly. She pulled me up by my arm. "You're alive. That's what matters. Anyway, come to my place for now. There's a vacancy in the company dorm. It'll be far from your office, though." I shook my head at her words. "I've been fired from the company." Barbara gasped in surprise. "Why? You've contributed so much to that company. Why would they fire you?" I told Barbara about the series of events. When she heard the name Mike Johnson, her expression hardened. Our past was intricately intertwined. Mike and Barbara were a couple, and I was their friend. Mike and I met at the university entrance ceremony and hit it off right away. I admired Mike's quick thinking and sense of style, and we became close friends who could speak frankly with each other. Then Mike introduced Barbara as his girlfriend. She was the only daughter of the well-established Miller Trading Company, a charming woman with both the elegance and intelligence of a well-bred lady. The three of us started hanging out together, deepening our mutual trust. Mike and Barbara often argued in front of me. I always stepped in to mediate, preventing things from getting too serious, but it was nerve-wracking. The cause of the fights was always Mike. Mike was famous for his flirtations, and Barbara was constantly anxious about it. There were even rumors that Mike was only with Barbara for her family's wealth. I didn't think Mike was after her money, but I sensed a difference in their feelings. Barbara seemed deeply in love with Mike, and I often listened to her complaints. No matter how many times I suggested she break up and find someone else, Barbara couldn't give up on Mike. And I, in turn, was deeply in love with Barbara, who loved Mike so devotedly. "It's a small room, but make yourself at home. Let me know if you need anything." I ended up staying in the Miller Trading Company dormitory. "Thanks, you've really helped me. I'll repay this favor someday." "Don't worry about it. You've cheered me up many times since our student days. Even now, you meet with me and listen to my concerns." A few years ago, she took over the company from her father, who had fallen ill suddenly. Of course, she couldn't become president immediately, so she learned the business from other executives, taking on one task at a time. And now, years later, she's doing her best as a full-fledged CEO. "You're impressive. You're maintaining what your father left behind. Compared to that, I'm pathetic." Barbara interrupted me. "Not impressive at all. I might step down as CEO soon. Recently, the company has been struggling, and shareholders are expressing their dissatisfaction." According to her, a major company that had been trading with them since her father's era went bankrupt, causing their performance to decline. Moreover, internal divisions have begun to emerge. "Honestly, I don't know what to do, but more than anything, I don't want to leave our employees and their families out in the cold." Barbara seems to have a healthy mindset as a manager. Yes, a CEO. needs responsibility and honesty. I'm sorry for making you worry about me when you're going through such a tough time, I said, and she frowned and smiled. Your situation is clearly more difficult. That's true. I'm an optimist, and even when I hit a dead end, as long as I can see the next step, I feel better. Now that I have a place to stay, I think I'll manage somehow. Hey, it's not right to stay here for free, so why not hire me as an employee? I don't need a salary, just meals will do. Hire you? Barbara looked puzzled, and I nodded with a smile. For the next 3 months, I worked as an employee at Miller Trading and achieved more than I expected. Ironically, my experience of being left penniless when Mike ran off with the money paid off. At that time, I got a lot of sympathy after my trusted friends stole from me. Not wanting to get up from a fall without gaining something, I came up with the sympathy business. It was simple. I accepted any job from those who sympathized with me and got paid for it. It didn't matter what the job was. Walking dogs, reserving spots for a party, writing book reports, anything was fine. I just did whatever needed to be done and got paid. You might worry that boasting about doing anything would lead to unreasonable demands, but this was a sympathy business. People who sympathized with me gave me jobs, so they never imposed impossible tasks. The circle of sympathy expanded. Those who sympathized with me introduced me to others, and I got jobs from them too. As I kept going, eventually, I would hit it big. When you trace friends of friends of friends, you eventually meet someone significant. This built a network and trust. Later, this became a major strength when I started my business. I leveraged my current misfortune and relied on my old network to start my sympathy business. I got kicked out of my previous company, and my house burned down the same day. Now I'm working with Miller Trading. Nice to meet you. By the way, I believe in the human heart. I believe that hearts always yearn to connect with others. I surprised everyone at Miller Trading by securing clients from places I had no prior connections. The internal divisions they were worried about seemed to realize it wasn't the time for conflicts and called a truce. As a result, Barbara regained her smile, and my presence helped restore trust. Miller Trading went on to achieve its best performance ever. Who exactly are you? Barbara asked me. A coward who can't tell the truth when it matters most? She looked puzzled. I'm going to start another business, thanks to you. I feel like fighting again. And with that, I took a new step forward. Later, Mike called me. He asked if we could meet, and I immediately agreed. When I met Mike after a long time, he looked as stylish and charming as ever, the type Linda would approve of. He probably still makes a lot of women cry. Long time no see, Mike. Are you getting along well with the CEO after kicking me out? When it comes to Mike, I can't help but be sarcastic. Honestly, I envy his natural charm. I heard that old apartment you lived in burned down, Mike said, ignoring my question. There was a hint of sympathy in his expression. Yeah, it was a disaster, losing my job and my home at the same time. But it's not your fault the old apartment burned down. I wanted to shout, first, apologize for running off with the money back then. However, a sense of nostalgia overcame me, and I couldn't stay angry. What have you been up to, and where are you staying now? Mike kept asking questions, just like old times. I'm staying at Miller Trading's dormitory. But I can't stay there forever, so I'll be moving out soon. Besides, I want to start something new again. Mike laughed. You're still going to start something new? You're like a memory metal. I scowled at him, saying, shut up. How's she doing? He casually asked about Barbara, so I told him all about her after he disappeared. I also explained how I helped revive Miller Trading when it was on the brink of collapse. Mike listened silently and only muttered, I see. At the end. Then Mike told me something surprising. I pushed you out of that company because I wanted you to help Miller Trading, no Barbara. She was ready to give up on the company she inherited from her father. I was speechless. What was this man talking about? He spoke as if he had been thinking about Barbara all along. Mike, do you love Barbara? Mike replied apologetically. Barbara and I never actually broke up. But since our college days, Barbara had never mentioned Mike's name. Why did Barbara hide that she was still connected to you? She knew how you felt about her. But this time, if you had confessed your feelings to her, we would have broken up. But you didn't say anything again. If you two had just gotten married quickly, none of this would have happened. Mike retorted, marriage isn't really my thing. I sighed deeply. This guy's free spirit hasn't changed since the old days. It's part of his charm, but still. However, the CEO said that since Mike liked Linda, he wanted him to marry her. President Taylor plans to make you Linda's husband, right? He's aiming to merge the companies and bring you into the fold. But be careful. He's the type to use and discard people without a second thought. I chewed on my bitter feelings. After I left the company, I heard that some of the subordinates who admired me were treated poorly and quit. President Taylor disregarded my request and cut off people he didn't like. Then this time, you should be the one to use and discard him. You have that right. Mike said nonchalantly. Even if you say that, I don't have that kind of power left. I admitted. Pathetically, I was out of resources. You're slow. I'm saying let's team up. But remember, you'll be the one in charge, not me. Mike slapped my shoulder hard, snapping me out of my slump. I couldn't help but look up at his handsome face. Me, in charge? What are you talking about? I'm saying you'll be the president of my company. Of course, I'll be there as a co-founder. I've been planning this for a while to create a company to utilize your talents. Mike had been carrying the weight of betraying me all this time. Creating a company for me is more than making amends. To be honest, I hated you. I wanted to forget everything. I never thought we'd talk and laugh together again. Mike looked awkward as he spoke. The truth is, I had a reason for running off with the money. At that time, my brother borrowed money from some dangerous people, and his life was at risk if he didn't pay it back immediately. This was news to me. Mike's brother was a well-known delinquent in our hometown. One day, his brother called and begged Mike to bring money. Their parents had given up on his brother, so Mike had no choice but to step in. It's too late, but I'm sorry. I thought about apologizing many times, but couldn't bear to see your disappointed face. So, making me the president of your company is part of your atonement. If Mike had said yes, I would have declined his offer. I didn't want his sympathy. Mike and I needed to be equals. No, I wanted us to be equals from now on. Mike hesitated, but then spoke decisively. I apologized earlier, but I don't regret taking the money one bit. In fact, you should thank me for leaving half of it behind. He wore the same nihilistic, cool expression he had in our student days. Hearing his answer, I felt relieved. Standing before me was the same Mike I had admired and envied. All right, I'll become the king of your company. At that moment, Mike's arm wrapped around my neck. I knew you'd say that. With our arms around each other, there was nothing between us. And so, I found myself sitting in the CEO's chair once again. Our triumphant march began. When President Taylor saw me at the meeting for the merger with Taylor Enterprises, he was astonished. "Why are you here?" he shouted, jumping up. Mike calmly responded, "He's our new CEO, Will, but I suppose you already know him well." President Taylor protested to Mike. "I didn't hear anything about a new CEO. I agreed to the merger because you were going to be the CEO. I can't work with Will now." Of course, the most talented person should lead. Will is much more capable than I am. You've heard about Miller Trading, right? The one who saved that company is none other than Will. The room buzzed with murmurs. "But, Mr. Taylor, are you really that afraid of being retaliated against?" I said with a smile to the visibly shaken CEO. Retaliation? Did you come here for revenge? President Taylor stood up and glared at me. I glared back and replied, Of course not. First of all, anyone who doesn't care about their employees shouldn't be in a leadership position. That's my belief as a business leader. I'm the leader. You should just hand over your employees and assets to my company. As President Taylor yelled and moved towards me, Mike stepped in to stop him. It's actually the opposite. You'll be handing over your employees and assets to us. I'm sure your board members agree with this plan. President Taylor turned to look at his board members, but none of them met his gaze. It seems you've lost their trust. Let's proceed with the discussion. Mike had convinced the board members to gather the shares of Taylor Enterprises, and so we took control of the company. Since President Taylor has stepped down, we need to change the company name. Come up with a good one, President Will. I was stumped by Mike's request. How about Princess Enterprises? Mike scolded me. Be serious. As for the princess, who said she didn't like me, she took Mike's rejection hard and spiraled. She lashed out at her loyal viewers, causing a backlash that led to her channel being deleted for inappropriate content. I felt a bit sad that I wouldn't see Linda's fake smiles anymore. Taylor, now demoted to chairman, was also affected. He worried about his daughter so much that he rarely left his room and seldom visited the company. As long as he didn't interfere with the management, I didn't mind what he did. My former subordinates, who Taylor had forced out, returned to the company, and we all started anew. Our CEO is Will. We'll follow you anywhere. Surrounded by their support, I couldn't help but shed tears. Seeing this, Mike slapped my back and said, You're lucky, Will. My subordinates never said anything like that to me. Though, I've heard similar things from women a few times. I was exasperated by his unnecessary comment. He seems to have forgotten that his words made him unpopular and the target of bad rumors back in our student days. But now, Mike is surrounded by great teammates. The employees in his company are well coordinated and seem to respect each other just the right amount. The sharp-edged Mike of the past could never have built such camaraderie. After all, I was his only trustworthy friend back then. I looked at Mike with pride. What? Stop looking at me with that creepy smile, Mike said, trying to block my gaze with his hand. I'm just happy, that's all. Happy that you have friends now. You can't make friends without some compassion. You've grown up. Are you my parent or something? At that moment, I remembered something my dad used to say. When you can feel the important things as a human being with your heart, not your head, you're an adult. I voiced my dad's words. What's that? Some wise man's saying. It's rare for you to quote someone, Mike said, looking surprised. It's something my dad used to say. I usually forget it, but sometimes it comes back to me. Back then, my dad was healthy and working hard, but now he's enjoying a leisurely life on his pension. Because of this, we talk on the phone more often than before. I've always been close with my dad, so I really enjoy our conversations. Someday, I even want to bring him here to live with me. Wow, Will, you were raised by a good dad, Mike said with a slightly wistful expression. Speaking of family, I don't think we've ever talked about yours. How's your dad doing? I never knew my dad, Mike replied, and I instinctively apologized. Sorry. It's fine, Mike said. But hearing your story makes everything clear. Choosing you as CEO was definitely the right decision. Then he patted my back again and laughed. I'm counting on you, boss. Once the merger settled down, Mike handed me a thick envelope. Better late than never. Here's the money from back then. I pushed the envelope back to him. No need for that. You've helped me much more than that. Thanks to you, I was able to build a solid foundation for my life. Then take it as a wedding gift, Mike said with a sly grin. How did you know? I haven't told anyone yet. I even made Barbara promise to let me tell you myself. Sorry, But I've known Barbara much longer than you have, Mike replied. Feeling like he had outmaneuvered me, I couldn't help but feel a bit annoyed. Yes, I had talked to Barbara when I was moving out of the Miller Trading dormitory, but I hadn't planned on bringing up marriage. After reviving Miller Trading and restoring her trust as a CEO, Barbara started new independent ventures as a subsidiary of a major company. If I confessed my feelings now, it would only distract her. However, as I was about to leave, I found myself frozen, unable to move. It felt like I was paralyzed while standing. I could feel Barbara's intense gaze. Her eyes were teary, and she was biting her lip. After a moment of silence, I mustered up the courage and shouted, "Will you marry me?" At that moment, tears began to flow from her eyes. Memories of our school days flashed back inside of my mind. I extended my hand to Barbara. She, slightly shy, slowly reached out and took my hand.